Caleb, I'll start with you, Senator. So much trouble getting that out. Where do you sit on this issue of the decision by the United States President to withdraw from Syria? And look, almost immediately in comes Turkish tanks and putting at risk Kurdish people and fighters who stood by us when we were, the West, taking on Islamic State.
I think you kind of stole my thunder in your editorial there, Peter, because it summarises exactly what I was thinking. I understand why Donald Trump has done this, and I understand why he wants to demilitarise, and he's been quite strong on that throughout his whole presidency, the fact that he doesn't want to interfere in other countries militarily because he doesn't believe that's advantageous for America. However, when you go in and you commit to obliterating a mob like ISIS, inevitably you create a vacuum. Once you start the work, you have to finish it off. And it's simply not good enough to go in, join the fight, then say, OK, well, we've done our bit now, looks like ISIS isn't a problem anymore, we're going to bugger off. And then in comes Turkey to try and obliterate the obliterate the Kurdish, and move into Syria. Tactically, I don't think it's the right move. As you've noted, in terms of breeding terror, it's not advantageous to the US. It's not advantageous to the UK. It's not advantageous to Australia or any other Western nation. And I think it was actually quite negligent for Donald Trump, given the help the Kurds have provided to the Western armies in the fight against ISIS, to more or less just abandon them in this case, and within a matter of days Turkey has come in. It's not a good look, and that's not coming from a position of wanting to criticise Trump. I just think he's miscalculated this one.
Yeah, I want to play a grab from Penny Wong. Now, I don't normally play Penny Wong that much on this show, but it has a line in there I think we need to hear for posterity. Let's have a listen.
It is true that this is military action launched by Turkey. It has, however, been enabled by the decision of the Trump administration to withdraw US forces from northern Syria. This is a controversial decision in the United States. Can I remind you what the senior Republican Senator Lindsey Graham has said about this US withdrawal? He said it ensures the re-emergence of ISIS. We are concerned regarding the consequences of this decision by the Trump administration, and the Australian government should express these concerns.
Right, Rita, she said in that press conference that she thinks the United States has been a stabilising force in the region. Now, I was there, I mentioned at the start, in the Prime Minister's office when we went into that area in that region after Islamic State took hold in the first place. I didn't hear many on the Labor side saying that the United States would be a stabilising force. And, of course, you know, I think in all of this, where we might be tough on the United States, and I understand why they want to withdraw, where's the UN? Isn't this what the UN should be involved in and not all the other peripheral things?
Well, absolutely, and Penny Wong does make a lot more sense when she's quoting Lindsey Graham than herself, so that's a positive. Look, I share your concerns about particularly what's going to happen to the Kurds in the absence of the Americans. The Kurds have been absolute warriors in defeating Islamic State. They were there throughout, and the global community, particularly the UN, was missing. When the Islamic State went in there and slaughtered the Yazidis, enslaved their women, where was the UN? That is precisely when you need the UN to step in and say, this is not going to happen on our watch. They did nothing. So I do worry about the Kurds, but I do understand the American imperative to leave because they see it as endless wars. They don't see an end to this. They don't see an end to the tribalism that's now come out in Syria, where it's really a number of nations almost, not just one anymore. And, you know, you wonder if it's ever going to be back to what it once was. So I can understand this decision, however unpopular it is with many Republicans, and I've been critical of it myself. I think for the majority of Americans, it'll probably be pretty popular.
The poorest constituency, I get it, and it was an election commitment, but I think that wrong decision at the wrong time. But I go back to the point that I think the rest of the world needs to really step in here, and this is precisely what the UN should be doing.
Erdogan is a danger to the rest of the world, particularly to Europe. He is an Islamist, he is a wannabe dictator, he's on his way to being a dictator, And Europe in particular needs to be a lot more concerned about his influence in that region.
And look, remind people at home too, he was the Prime Minister. He then appointed himself basically President. He's gone after his critics in these so-called coups.
Yeah.
And of course, the porous border between Turkey and in parts of Syria was all really because he allowed people from the West wanting to fight for Islamic State get through. I want to say
there were a lot of Turkish stamps on the passports of Islamic State fighters, foreign Islamic State fighters. And he has threatened to flood Europe with refugees. He knows the position of strength he has where he is and is not afraid about flexing that muscle. So I think that it's not just up to the US to bring him into line. The rest of the world needs to also step up.
Yeah, I think Trump's giving him a bit too much rope there.